Hey, what is up, everyone? The Leafs Convo trade deadline edition is on StreamYard and YouTube and all of the podcast platforms. It is April 11th, 2021. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. If you're with us for the first portion of our trade deadline show this morning, we alluded to an idea that Nick Foligno could be a Maple Leaf by the end of the night. And lo and behold, he is coming to Toronto with Stefan Noesen and going back to Columbus, a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick. And San Jose also involved in a three-team trade. And they also get a Leafs fourth-round pick. Mr. Augello, good evening. Pretty eventful stuff.
Yeah, good evening, Norm. We knew that Kyle Dubas was big game hunting. And it appeared they were in on Kyle Palmieri and landed Nick Foligno. And if you look at the pursuit of those two players, they were definitely going after a certain type of player. Again, the Michael Granlund stuff, I don't know what the hell. I mean, I think it was basically they pursued him during the offseason and everybody was putting two and two together. But he, in terms of the type of player that he was not a fit and was not what they needed. What they needed was a big body forward who could play, who could play offensively and play defensively. And that's Foligno. I mean, Foligno is not the perfect fit because nobody's a perfect fit, but he's a really good fit in terms of what this team needed. And they paid a hefty price, but I mean, Dubas said last month, we're going to go for it. We're not going to hesitate to trade either a top prospect or a first-round pick. And they traded a first-round pick to get Foligno, and that was the price that they had to pay, and they did.
So the Maple Leafs are better right now than they were this morning. They were better this morning than they were the day before. The process to improve continues on, and the deadline is approaching quick, but there's still time to make other moves. Does Nick Foligno situate himself on the second line, giving way to Zach Hyman moving back to the third?
I think that's the plan. I mean, not to say that Galchenyuk is going to be a fixture on that top line with Matthews and Marner after playing well in one game, but he did play really well. I mean, it gives him a lot of flexibility, especially in the playoffs. A coach needs options, and if you look right now, if they send Barabanov to the taxi squad, you've got 13 forwards, and that's without Riley Nash, and Nash will be in the mix in the playoffs as a depth forward, as a reserve. But, one guy of that top 12 that has played when Nylander was healthy is going to be out now that Nick Foligno's there. So, the question is who that's going to be. Maybe they rest Thornton a game here or there. Maybe they rest Spezza a game here or there. Maybe Engvall is an extra skater. Who knows? I mean, but Keefe needed options. And with Foligno, now you have the option of either Foligno, Galchenyuk, or Hyman as the winger on those two top lines. And I think he'll probably mix and match and see what combos work, but it's nice to have options.
So Nick Foligno's played 950 games for his NHL career, started with the Senators, captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets. His let's just say his ceiling he's already hit, and he's in the back half of his career. This is the perfect time for a guy like this to find a bit of rejuvenation in some new scenery with a group that is pretty motivated to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the conference call, and he couldn't have said anything more perfect than he did. He basically, obviously he was bittersweet about leaving Columbus, where he's been for a number of years. He's team captain. But he wants an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup, and he harkened back to his days as a kid when he was 6 years old. And his dad was part of the '93 Leafs, and you talk about saying the right things. He basically said, well, we didn't like Kerry Fraser too much. So it's like, he's already tapped into the, the touchstones for the Leafs. I mean, he said, I'm going to come in. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm going to jump in with both feet. I'm going to play the physical game that I play. And that's what they want him to play, the game that he plays in Columbus. They don't want him to be anything more than all of a sudden they don't need him to be a 40-goal scorer. They want him to come in, be a responsible two-way forward, crash and bang, and that's what this team needs. They only have a couple forwards who really push back against the opposition, and now against bigger teams, or bigger in terms of being more aggressive teams like Montreal and Winnipeg. Now you have more than just Wayne Simmons and Zach Hyman to push back, and that was extremely important to acquire.
This is the Convo. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, if you're an OG, if you've listened to this podcast since 2018, we'll give you that. Let us know in the comments. Let us know below the post on YouTube. Just a quick 2 letters, OG. Let us know who you are, and I will certainly shout you out. Okay, Foligno is a good catch, but man, they need a goalie. Can't trust Andersen, GH. I don't know. It feels to me like Anderson's just out of the mix, man. This is Jack Campbell's show now.
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to say that but right now, okay. And as we explained in the convo earlier this morning, they put Andersen in LTIR. That opened up about $6.5 million in deadline cap space. The deal for Foligno, and it's very similar to the deal that Tampa made for David Savard, and the deal that the Leafs were involved in last year with Robin Lehner. What they did was Columbus traded Foligno to San Jose so they could Columbus retained 50% of his salary. He's making $5.5 million, so they retained about $2.75 million. They traded him to San Jose. San Jose retained half of the 2.75 remaining. So his cap hit for the Leafs is at 1.3 something million dollars. That leaves them options in terms of going out before the deadline and adding another piece. Now, I would think they're taking care of it forward. They've added Nash as a depth piece. They've added Foligno as a top 6, top 9. I think they should be looking for depth defensemen. There are options out there. The question is the goaltending. Andersen they know what's going on with Andersen. They put him on LTIR, so right now they don't know whether he's going to be back to 100% before the end of the year. Maybe they think he will, but I don't know if they have confidence that he'll be 100%. The question is Jack Campbell, who keeps playing great but keeps getting dinged in these games. And that's where the nightmare scenario of what happened to Colorado last year, where they lost Grubauer and Francouz, and they ended up with Michael Hutchinson as their goalie in Game 7. So,
Mike, Kyle Dubas has to have a contingency plan for this.
I would think. Now, I've heard different suggestions. I don't think they're going to go out and trade for a goaltender that is anything more than a rental. But the David Pagnotta from the fourth period came out about an hour ago and said the contract talks between the Sabres and Linus Ullmark are not happening. So he's going to be a free agent. So he's one guy. David Rich from Calgary is another guy. Maybe Ryan Miller from Anaheim. So there's a number of options out there. I think that they should be getting a little injury insurance in goal and a little Marinson insurance on team.
You have to reference this guy. I'm trying to forget about him.
Well, it's tough
bringing him up.
It's tough to forget about him when you see him transacted from the taxi squad to the roster. And if one guy goes down, that hideousness is going to be playing in a playoff game. So, it's like a bad penny that keeps coming out.
Corey Parrish, OG, Puff 420, OG, Puff, you're still up. I love it. Rav.
He's puffing. That's why he's puffing.
Who isn't puffing right now? Rav, enjoy your hoodie when you get it. He's definitely an OG. Thank you guys for being here. It really is amazing. These are the moments. This is what you guys are fans for. This kind of moment when your favorite team strengthens its position as a contender with a player like Nick Foligno, potentially a cherry on top in terms of solidifying the forward core, a guy with lots to prove, a guy who wants to win a championship, joining a club that has a legitimate shot at doing it. These are the moments. This is great that we're a collection of OGs and converts and fans of this beloved hockey club that's driven us crazy so often, but with so much potential going forward. This is it. This is amazing. So, Mike, Nick Foligno's going to situate himself in the second, third line, wherever Sheldon Keefe wants to play him. Nick Foligno's going to come out guns a-blazing. It'd be nice if the Leafs could, support Jack Campbell with a veteran presence or someone with some ability who can off-spell him a little bit down the stretch, and if need be, even in the playoffs. But let's talk about the defense for a sec. Jamie Alexiak keeps coming up in the chat, keeps coming up on Twitter, keeps coming up on Facebook. Toronto guy, in his late 20s, lots of gas still in the tank. Is that the type of player the Leafs might be able to nab here before the deadline?
It's a type of player I think they would like to nab. And I don't think the cap is the consideration. I think it's the fact that Dallas might think that they're still in the playoff race. Now they have a lot of depth on defense. They have, like a kid like Julius Honka, who they brought over from Finland, who was with them before, who they probably could step in, and they have other defensive prospects, and he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So if they're not going to spend the money to re-sign him, maybe they want to recoup some draft picks and trade him. But I don't know. I mean, right now, they're 5 points out of a playoff spot, that they have 3 games in hand, and it's Nashville holding on to 4th spot in the Central. So they may want to keep him. But I do think, if not Alexiak, there are a couple options out there. Dmitry Kulikov, former Sabre, former Florida Panther, former Winnipeg Jet, now with New Jersey. He's making about $1.1 million. He's, we're talking about somebody who is a 7th D who can basically sit in the press box and be, break the glass. This guy can step in. That means somebody who's experienced. Kulikov makes sense. A guy like Michael Del Zotto, I know that Carlo Koyakovo has mentioned him on TSN radio. He's making $700,000 a year. He's a veteran guy. He can fill in. I mean, you're not going to go out and trade for, PK Subban making $9 million. They have limitations, but I'm saying, get yourself a veteran, experienced depth guy who can step in. You saw that with Dallas last year. You saw that with Tampa. Tampa did when they brought in Zach Bogosian. They brought in that guy at the 11th hour just to as a hedge against somebody getting hurt. And somebody always gets hurt in the playoffs. You block a shot, you could, break a hand, you could, bruise a knee. You don't know. You need a little bit of a safety net. And that's why I think Kyle Dubas is probably going to go and find himself a cheap option as a 7th D.
I love the size that Alexiak brings, and he's got the pedigree. Obviously, his sister, Penny, gold medalist, champion, and this is a guy who probably do well wearing the blue and white, whether it's for 10, 15 games or 15 minutes in the playoffs. That big body, 6'7", 255 pounds. Perfect. A bit of a contrast to what how the defensive core is made up right now in terms of adding size. Yeah, but that stability is there, and that responsibility will be there because, he is starting to enter that veteran stage with over 350 games played.
Well, size and experience of being in the Cup final last year.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a Toronto kid, but I've watched Alexiak a lot, and I watched him a lot in the playoffs last year. He's sort of a double-edged sword sometimes because he'll make odd decisions sometimes on the ice. But he, as a bigger, slower defenseman, he jumped into the rush and scored 5 goals during the playoffs last year. He would be a nice acquisition. I just don't know whether they can afford it, whether they can fit him in. But I do think that they're going to search out and find. Hell, it could be somebody they claim on waivers. Victor Mete, who played for London, he got waived by Montreal. I think he's a
wild,
I think he's a capable young defenseman. They just didn't have the room for him, and they went out and traded for a more experienced John Merrill. So maybe Mete is somebody they could claim because he's making $735,000.
Let me just go through the comments, Mike, because again, this is a celebratory moment for all of us. A big move just before the deadline, adding to an already stellar team. This isn't Dennis Mulligan and Nick Patan weakening a team. We've
Thomas Canitz or Brian Boyle.
Or Brian Boyle. Wayne Simmons, Jason Spezza, Joe Thornton, Nick Foligno. That third, fourth layer of bravado and experience and sage and wisdom, strengthening a group of youthful exuberance. I'm extremely excited about it. I know the OGs and converts are, and I just wanted to do a little couple shout outs here in the chat. Veets, OG, Vito from Markham, of course, Erish, another OG, or Mod Leper, OG Leper for sure. And our good friend here, Need More Cowbell, says he has to be close. Joe Shedler earned himself a Leafs Convo hoodie. Yeah, nice leaf on C3PO there. C3PO is a big fan. I have no clue why I have all this Star Wars stuff as part of the Leafs Convo. I'm backed into a corner here in this office that is basically a storage room. So I've got the club head, a Leaf club head here, and I've got the 67 or whatever that team is, and the C3PO has the Leaf on his chest. Pretty excited by the trade deadline. So great ambience.
If you can see this card right there, as a Boreas Salmon card that Kevin Allen gave me. Yeah. But I've got like history books here. I got Civil War books and World War II books, and Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs. So it's like all my like history books and stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah, may the force be with me, Erish. I appreciate that. Frenchie is in the chat. He says that as a Habs fan, he's terrified by the Leafs over the next 10 years. He thinks Montreal will upset the Leafs eventually.
Well,
I don't know if he means in the playoffs, but here's the thing. Eric Stahl and Corey Perry, and that's a feisty group. A lot of people are looking forward to a Leafs-Habs playoff round. Imagine that, the Leafs doing everything they can to solidify themselves as a champion, and for the first time meeting the Habs in 40 years in the playoffs, they get dumped.
Maybe they should trade for Chris Kreider so he can take out Carey Price. But no. I mean, yeah. But this is sort of a flashback. It's like, I mean, if you look at that '93 team, they brought in like veteran guys like Mike Krushelnyski and Glenn Anderson and Foligno and this team. And this is going to be the model for the next few years. It's like with the star players that they have in Tavares and Nylander and Matthews and Marner, you're going to see, Jason Spezza is going to probably stay around at least another year at $700,000. The blue,
he's got a lifetime contract, $700K a year, just keep coming back.
The blueprint of this team is going to be bringing in veteran guys like they did this year with Simmons, with Thornton, with Bogosian, because these veteran players, if they don't win a Stanley Cup this year, these veteran players are going to come to Toronto because they want a chance to win a Stanley Cup. And, we've seen that with other teams before, and I think that that's the model that Kyle Dubas will follow. But, we won't talk about the cap ramifications going forward. We're more looking at right now what this team looks like they're going to be going into the playoffs. And like I said, I think the only thing that's a concern right now is the depth on defense and the injury situation in goal. At forward, right now, they're golden.
Jim Bianchini, may the cup be with us soon. Very appropriate there, Jimmy. Need more cowbell. The Leafs will stomp the Habs. Eudaimonia Trout. If Price is in form, Montreal can steal any series.
Sure. I mean, I'm okay. We're not overlooking Montreal, and in Montreal, like they made really good additions in the offseason. They have a defense that with Petrie and Weber and Sherratt, who's out injured right now. I mean, they're going to be physical. Josh Anderson. It's going to be funny to see Josh Anderson going against his former teammate in Foligno. But that's the thing. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. If they play Montreal, it's going to be physical. It's going to be, and the Leafs. If they play defensively like they did against Ottawa, they're in trouble. But for some reason, it just seems to be Ottawa that brings out the worst in the Leafs in terms of their defense.
Hey, let's not forget the Leafs still have their issues, and we don't want to be Debbie Downers. Some people just think we are, but it's the truth. The Leafs still need to get their power play in order.
Yes.
They still need to learn how to step on an opponent's throat when they have them down. You can't go up 3-0 in game 3 or 4 of a series and then give them all back and then go into overtime. Like this team has the capability to run roughshod over a team and completely close it out. It still has to find the confidence to do so, but the the personnel is there. Interesting. 25 years ago, Mike Foligno was a part of that Leafs team that won in 92, 93, 93, 94. The Mike Foligno, what is it, the leap or the jump, you know, when he was freaking out with his round helmet. And all these years later, his son joins the Maple Leafs. It's total coincidence, but it is really cool. And they'll both wear 71.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he will not put on that bucket that his dad was wearing. It was like a stand.
Who made that bucket anyway?
I don't know. It wasn't a Jofa. I think it was like Winwell or something.
Was it Winwell?
Yeah, it might have been Winwell. It was just this big monster thing. But I remember Stan Mikita wearing one too. Somebody in the chat probably knows the equipment better than I do. But it was a monstrosity. And but you know, I mean, but see,
that'll be my thumbnail. I'm gonna add Mike Foligno to the thumbnail.
I mean, he said everything right.
Yeah.
In his conference call, he waived his no move clause to come here. He wanted the opportunity to win a Stanley Cup, and that's the thing that's encouraging. And not to say that they can't lose in the first round, because it's very possibly they could lose in the first round. But the hunger of these players is there. Spets has not won a cup. Simmons has not won a cup. Foligno has not won a cup. Tavares, I mean, and all the Leafs that have been there before, but the players, other than Bogosian, all the players that they've added have come to Toronto to win a cup because they haven't won a cup. And I think that hunger is extremely important, and that motivation is extremely important.
Clandestine. I love the Mike Foligno jump. We did too, and we're looking forward to watching Nick Foligno jump for joy as his new team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, win their first Stanley Cup since 1967. David Jejna, if I got that wrong, which I probably did, my apologies. But Dave, you're getting a shout out on the convo. Never thought I would see the day where Toronto would be a free agent destination. It used to be a black hole. We get on John Tavares for not playing like he did when he was at peak with the Islanders, but that guy sort of changed the perception of Toronto, the biggest free agent signing in the history of the organization, arguably. And he may have set in motion something that's going to continue for years to come. And at some point the result will be a championship, maybe this year. Yeah,
that black hole is now Buffalo. Yeah. Because seriously, I mean, they may have to trade. They may have to trade Jack Eichel in the offseason.
How have you not been run out of that city?
No. Well, I don't know. I can defend myself, I guess. No. Please. Most Sabre fans are in agreement with that.
Did you get booed when you'd go into the hot sauce blue cheese arena?
No. I will tell you. I'm sure everybody in the chat will love this. In 1999, when the Leafs played the Sabres, I was in the arena. I was wearing a Leaf jersey. And the Leafs lost that game. I think that was the game that Rob Ray scored on Cujo. And a Sabre fan, in his infinite wisdom, threw a soft pretzel that had mustard all over it at me. And he missed, but the mustard got on my Wendell Clark jersey. So that's, that kind of action is the reason why I hold Sabre fans in such low esteem.
You became an instant mustard tiger.
Oh, I hate mustard. So anyway, but
okay, quick. Oh, geez, Converse, mustard or ketchup? It's mustard. All
neither. They're both disgusting.
Okay, so Nick Foligno can't just suit up with this team.
No, 7 days he has to quarantine. He let everybody know in the conference call his family is going to stay in Columbus, and he pointed to, and unfortunately it's the reality, the booming COVID numbers in Ontario. I hope nobody asked him during the conference call. I wonder if in Columbus whether he's been vaccinated. He probably has been. But anyway, he's going to drive up to Toronto like Riley Nash drove up with his wife and I guess their newborn child. He's going to, I'm sure he'll be put up by the Leafs someplace, and he has to quarantine for 7 days. Now I looked at the schedule, and if the schedule, well, we don't know right now whether these games are going to take place, because if you look 7 days out, his first game would be against Vancouver, but we know those games are going to be rescheduled.
Yep.
So his first game might be the 21st of April against Winnipeg. But he's going to miss, if say day one of quarantine is tomorrow, he's going to miss at least 5 games. But I think they can survive. They're probably going to get Nylander back in the next couple of days, depending on him being testing negative and it getting out of the quarantine. But so we're gonna have to wait a little time for Nick Foligno to be in the lineup, but it'll be nice to see him when it does happen.
Amazing. Just a few more minutes. Irish on a hot dog. I need mustard and ketchup. I had a hot dog and mustard. Ketchup and mustard hot dog special with my kids the other day. It wasn't bad. Reminded me of my youth. Mike, I know you're anti mustard. I mean, that was just such a. I'm
anti condiments. The only condiment on a hot dog. The only thing
anti condiments. Come on, man.
Yes. First of all, I want a Hebrew National kosher beef hot dog. They're the best. Nathan's isn't bad. But all I put on it is onions, raw onions. That's it. Nothing else. No ketchup, no mustard, no relish. Nothing. You
were scarred for the rest of your life after the mustard tiger incident.
It was before that. It was before that, but still.
There's a whole Wikipedia write up on that, Mike. Rob Falcone should be getting his Leafs Convo anytime. Northland.
Yeah, it might be Northland. I'll have to look up an old picture of Foligno from '93. I'm sure the name is so big on there that you can read it, probably from the upper deck. That's how ridiculous that helmet was.
Ian Prosser, Buffalo and Eichel deserve one another. I love that city. I just can't stand that franchise. Alino Prespis, let's hear your lines, Mike. We'll close it out with this.
Somebody asked me this before. I'm not ready to put Galchenyuk on the number 1 line after one game, but for argument, let's say they put Galchenyuk back on the line. I don't think they're going to put Foligno on the first line. I think they're going to put him on the second line with Tavares and Nylander.
Can I interrupt real quick? The first line, we know it's Matthews at center. Marner will flank him. Right. Is that third spot an open position? Do you think anybody will entrench themselves in that position?
I think it's going to be situational in the playoffs. Yeah. I think early on what they'll do is they may play Thornton, they may play Galchenyuk, but late in the third period, if they're up by a goal, I think you're going to see Hyman on that line because Hyman plays major minutes and is really good.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but I think for the rest of the regular season, if everybody's healthy, I think there'll probably be Hyman on the top line with Matthews and Marner. I think in the playoffs, they're going to want to put Hyman on that third line and give them 3 lines that are dependable. But I'll say Hyman, Matthews, Marner, line 1, Foligno with
and Nylander.
Well, no, I think they'll put Galchenyuk back with Tavares and Nylander because it's worth. Maybe Foligno plays third line. Maybe he plays with Engvall and Simmons or Engvall and Mikheyev. It gives him a lot of options. I mean, it's going to be up to Keefe to what he wants to do.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. You've got this coagulation of talent that has to come together. Right now, this group with players in and out of the lineup, the core, the foundation of the group works really well. And it's not as if you're bringing someone in to shake the group up. It's like years past, the team sputtering just to make it into the playoffs, and you parachute in a dynamic player who may upset the rhythm and the chemistry. In this circumstance, you're just looking for complementary kinds of players who will have a big impact knowing their roles. So down the stretch, Mike, with the what do you have here? 15 games left. Get everybody healthy, get everybody aboard, everyone buying in, stay focused defensively. You know this team is going to score, and get the power play working, get the penalty kill in line, and wait for that door to bust open on the playoffs and get her together. Last word to you.
Yeah, I mean, this move was an exciting move, was a move that I think we anticipated. Now, in the whatever how many hours less than 24 obviously before the deadline. It'd be interesting to see what more Kyle Dubas does. I think there could be a tweaking move for a depth defenseman. The big question is the goaltender. If they trade for a goalie, then Freddie Andersen is going to be out for the rest of the regular season. So we'll see what, if any, moves Kyle Dubas will do before 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Rob Falcone, Mike, promote your Leafs Talk show now. I'm sure a lot of peeps.
Yeah, that's the Twitter Spaces thing. I may do that tonight.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
You're always invited.
I'm never on Twitter though. I drop a couple bombs and then I'm out of it. I'm retired from Twitter unless I can promote the Leafs Convo.
And that's what I'm doing on the show. I'm promoting the Leafs Convo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're everywhere, man. And I got to give you credit. The way you started as the most famous Leafs post-game caller in history, creating your own media brand. It's amazing to be a part of, Mike, and I thank you very much for that. Roger Matthews, Hyman, Nash, Simmons would be a good third line, and he hits it home. And we should shut this thing down, but we keep on going because this is a celebration. This is a big day. Roger typifies the entire experience with this team right now. You can mix and match. You can plug and play. These guys can go from the first line to the fourth line if need be. They're that transient and that capable.
Look, okay, and just briefly before we end the show, look at the Dallas Stars as the example of what has to happen. Last year, Ben Bishop gets hurt. Anton Khudobin carries them through to Game 6, I believe they got to in the Stanley Cup final. The hero for them in the playoffs was Kiviranta, who scored, I think it was a hat trick in Game 7 against Colorado, or one of the games. But he was the guy who scored the overtime winner. He wasn't even in the lineup at the beginning of the playoffs. You need depth. You need quality depth. And now, on top of having youngsters like Nick Robertson, and they don't have to force them in the lineup like they did last year. This year, when he's healthy, they have Riley Nash as the 13th or 14th forward. You're going to need extra bodies that can contribute. And up front, Kyle Dubas has accomplished that goal.
Let's just hope the goaltending situation doesn't blow apart this opportunity. I just want a Stanley Cup, man. I just want to see this team hoist the damn thing. And if it's in front of no fans at Scotiabank Arena, I don't care.
Well, here's the interesting thing, Norm. If they decide that they can't play at Scotiabank Arena, if they get to the conference final, you know where they may play?
Where?
Right next door to where the Blue Jays are playing, in Buffalo.
Oh, it all comes back to Buffalo. So we have to watch out.
Hey, Nick Foligno,
disparage that place.
You know where Nick Foligno was born? Buffalo.
Yeah, well, of course, his old man was
right. He's with the Sabres, so
him and Dave Andrechuk, Bob Sauvé, Don Edwards.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake! Someone end this show for us. I just want to do a couple more shout outs. Dyslexic, what's up, man? Brian McRibs, Curry whatever it is. I can barely read. Jay Glenn. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Continue this conversation below the post on YouTube. Give us a shout out. Let us know if you're an OG, if you're a convert. Thank you very much for being here. Mike and I will continue on as usual. And who knows if there's something big that happens between now and the trade deadline on Monday. We will be doing another one of these shows within a 24-hour period from now. So for Mike, I'm Norm. Guys, live it up. These are the times. The Leafs Convo is out. Thanks, Mike.